Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we are continuing with Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter number 14, verse number 20. Chapter number 14, the three modes of material nature, verse number 20. Gunanetana trindehi deha samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukher vimukto amritam ashnute. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life. Purport. How one can stay in the transcendental position even in this body in full Krishna consciousness is explained in this verse. The Sanskrit word dehi means embodied. Although one is within this material body, by advancement in spiritual knowledge, he can be free from the influence of the modes of nature. He can enjoy the happiness of spiritual life even in this body because after leaving this body, he is certainly going to the spiritual sky. But even in this body, he can enjoy spiritual happiness. In other words, devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the sign of liberation from material entanglement, and this will be explained in the 18th chapter. When one is freed from the influence of the modes of material nature, he enters into devotional service. Om Jnana Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we are continuing with the modes of material nature, how we have learned so far, kind of a summary of how people, what do they do in which mode, whether they are in goodness, passion, or ignorance. And here Krishna is talking about transcending these three modes. So what will happen when we transcend these modes? Then we can break the cycle of birth and death. Then no more coming back into this material world. But more importantly, Krishna says, even in this body, we can enjoy nectar. In this body right now. So we don't have to wait till we die and then we will get transcendental happiness. No, he says, while in this body, what does he say? That he can enjoy nectar even in this life. Means become free from birth, death, old age, and distresses. So Krishna consciousness can help us not only to transcend, but to also remain in transcendence. And right now, the word that is used in this verse is dehi, which means embodied, right? The soul is embodied as it's covered by this body. So it is trapped. It is trapped in this body. And even though it is trapped, Prabhupada explains, it does not get affected by the modes of material nature. So, when we take on this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, it shows us how to become happy. In chapter 9, we learned Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam. And there Krishna also says Susukham. That means this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita can give us Sukham, happiness, and that too permanent happiness. So it gives us joy and happiness. And how? Just by understanding I am not the spirit soul. Is that correct? No, that's wrong. I am not this body. Yes, I am a spirit soul. I'm not this body. And understand how these modes are working, right? We have to understand how they work. We have to actually contemplate on this. All our activities that we perform during the day, like last time I was saying, we should think about it at the at the end of the day, in which mode was I operating and why was I operating in that mode, and how I can come to pure goodness. So when we understand that, then we are more conscious of our activities, right? Supposing we are told that stealing is crime, right? If you commit any theft, steal, that is a crime. Once we understand that, will we steal? No, we will not, because we have the knowledge. We understand that this activity will give this reaction. So similarly, we need to understand how these modes are working and accordingly perform our activities. And the easy way Krishna says is, if we do everything being conscious of Krishna, right? When we perform our activities in that, then there will be no more entanglement. Like we learned in chapter 3, Yagnarthat karmano netra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. That if we do not perform our activities for the satisfaction of the Lord, then we get entangled. And then these modes also start working, and then we keep coming back in the cycle of birth and death. And not only that, while we are in this body, we suffer distress also. So here, this is very important to understand, that we need to somehow or the other transcend these three modes of material nature, even go above goodness. Let's see what he says in 21. Arjuna inquired, O my dear Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior? And how does he transcend the modes of nature? Purport. In this verse, Arjuna's questions are very appropriate. He wants to know the symptoms of a person who has already transcended the material modes. He first inquires of the symptoms of such a transcendental person. How can one understand that he has already transcended the influence of the modes of material nature? The second question asks how he lives and what his activities are. Are they regulated or non regulated? Then Arjuna inquires of the means by which he can attain the transcendental nature. That is very important. Unless one knows the direct means by which one can be situated always transcendently, there is no possibility of showing the symptoms. So, all these questions put by Arjuna are very important, and the Lord answers them. See, this whole Bhagavad Gita is about question and answer, right? Arjuna is asking, Krishna is answering. So, Arjuna is asking for our benefit, and Krishna is answering for our benefit. So, these are very good questions by Arjuna. Symptoms, right? Just like when we have a disease, when we go to the doctor, what is the first thing he will ask? What are the symptoms, right? That is how the doctor will be able to diagnose what the problem is, what the disease is. So here also, Arjuna's question is very significant. What are the symptoms of someone who has transcended the three modes of material nature? So first of all, we have to know the answer, how to transcend. And then we have to also know how to understand if we have transcended it or not, right? We also should be able to, it's called self-evaluation, evaluate yourself. Have I transcended? Am I in ignorance, passion, or goodness? And if we are not able to evaluate ourselves, then we should approach someone who knows the Bhagavad Gita, someone, a teacher or a guru, and find out from them. In this purport, towards the end, Srila Prabhupada says that it's important to know whether are the activities regulated or non-regulated, right? That's also important, because unless we regulate our senses, we will not be able to transcend the modes, right? If we eat whatever, if we see whatever, if we hear whatever, if the senses are doing whatever, then we will not be able to transcend the modes of material nature. So regulation is very, very important in life. That's why there are these four regulative principles, right? No meat eating, fish, eggs, onion, garlic, no intoxication, tea, coffee, no illicit sex, and no gambling. So these are the rules that are basic rules for a human being to follow. Until and unless we purify our senses with regulation, we will not be able to transcend the modes of material nature, because here Bhagavad Gita is just talking very scientifically and very logically based on the constitution of the body. Just like, I don't know if you all have read the book called The Higher Taste. No, you haven't. Okay. I will give you a copy. It's right there on the bookshelf. And in that, there is, of course, very good recipes, but it also has the physiological reasons, like herbivorous animals and carnivorous animals. Comparison is there to see. And when we see that table, we can see that our body is like herbivorous animals, right? So similarly, just like, this body is designed in such a way, then we need to put whatever we put inside this body, which also should be meant for this body, right? Like I give the example, if in my car I need the gas which is 89, but if I'm going to put diesel in that, my car is not going to work. Why? Because it's not designed for diesel. So here regulation is very, very important, and Arjuna has asked these wonderful questions for our benefit, because he probably knew, and Krishna also, of course, knew that as Kali Yuga approaches, people are going to be unregulated. Yes. What were you saying? Unregulated. Yes, unregulated. Yes. Let's read the other set of verses, which is 22 through 25. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal toward the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature. So here is a cheat sheet for us, right? We can see how many, make a list and put a check mark, what all if these apply to us. And if they do, that means we have transcended the modes of material nature. What does Prabhupada say in the purport? Arjuna submitted 3 different questions and the Lord answers them one after another. In these verses, Krishna first indicates that a person transcendentally situated has no envy and does not hanker for anything. When a living entity stays in this material world embodied by the material body, it is to be understood that he is under the control of one of the 3 modes of material nature. When he is actually out of the body, then he is out of the clutches of the material modes of nature. But as long as he is not out of the material body, he should be neutral. He should engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord so that his identity with the material body will automatically be forgotten. When one is conscious of the material body, he acts only for sense gratification. But when one transfers the consciousness to Krishna, sense gratification automatically stops. One does not need this material body, and he does not need to accept the dictations of the material body. The qualities of the material modes in the body will act, but as spirit soul, the self is aloof from such activities. How does he become aloof? He does not desire to enjoy the body, nor does he desire to get out of it. Thus, transcendentally situated, the devotee becomes automatically free. He need not try to become free from the influence of the modes of material nature. The next question concerns the dealings of a transcendentally situated person. The materially situated person is affected by so-called honor and dishonor offered to the body, but the transcendentally situated person is not affected by such false honor and dishonor. He performs his duty in Krishna consciousness and does not mind whether a man honors or dishonors him. He accepts things that are favorable for his duty in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, he has no necessity of anything material, either a stone or gold. He takes everyone as his dear friend who helps him in execution of Krishna consciousness, and he does not hate his so called enemy. He is equally disposed and sees everything on an equal level because he knows perfectly well that he has nothing to do with material existence. Social and political issues do not affect him because he knows the situation of temporary upheavals and disturbances. He does not attempt anything for his own sake. He can attempt anything for Krishna, but for his personal self, he does not attempt anything. By such behavior, one becomes actually transcendentally situated. So here we can see the symptoms of a person who has done what? Transcendented the modes of material nature. So what are the symptoms? No attachment, no delusion, unwavering, undisturbed, right? Senses control, neutral, transcendental. He says he's self-realized, he's equal in happiness and distress, honor, dishonor. That means there are no dualities. These are all the symptoms. Like he treats the friend and enemy on the same level, right? He does not hate the enemy. So these are some of the symptoms, not some, all of the symptoms that Krishna has listed here in these few verses that show that person has transcended the modes of material nature. So basically, if one who has transcended, that means is not envious, right? Envy is something that is deep rooted, and envy leads to so many other issues, so many other anarthas. So has no envy and does not hanker. Na shochati na kankshati, does not lament and does not hanker. I want this or I want that. We need to understand that we have been trying to satisfy our senses since many lifetimes, and we haven't been successful. Yes, we are trying. So, from that, we can understand that in this material world, no matter how hard we try, we will not get the satisfaction. Why? Because we are spirit souls, we are parts of Krishna, we belong to the spiritual world. That is where we'll be happy. Just like I give example of fish out of the water is not going to be happy. So, how does someone come up with all these? How can one develop all these qualities in oneself? Very simple process of devotional service. When we perform devotional service, then the sense gratification will go down. Actually, people are very afraid. They are afraid of Bhagavad Gita. You know why? Because they say, oh, if we learn Bhagavad Gita, then we'll have to give up this, we'll have to give up that. But they don't realize that, you're giving up something which is lower taste for a higher taste, right? Something that will give self satisfaction, is going to make us self realize and give us permanent happiness. And it will give us nectar in this life. What a wonderful thing. If Krishna had said, oh, only after you die you will be happy, then we will be like, who has seen? We don't know what after death, right? But he's giving us, an option right now that if we follow Bhagavad Gita, if we perform devotional service, then we will definitely taste the nectar in this body itself. You see, so it's a process. So senses need to be controlled. And if, if we try hard, Krishna says, ye yatha mam prapadyante tam satheva bhajamyam. As one surrenders, I will reward them accordingly. So he is going to help us. So only way for us to free ourselves from this cycle of birth and death is to take up Krishna consciousness and not get affected. That's the first thing. As soon as something goes wrong, we have to tell the mind, okay, milk is spilled, it's spilled. There's nothing we can do to put it back in the glass, right? It's gone. So why cry over spilt milk? That's the saying, right? Yeah. Why cry over spilt? So when there is distress, not get disturbed. And when there is some gain coming, or someone is honoring us or giving us a lot of respect, we should still remain neutral. not get affected by honor, dishonor, happiness, distress, success, failure, heat, cold. We should not get disturbed. In fact, also one of the qualities that Krishna is talking about is to be equal to everybody, to all living entities. Krishna has told Arjuna in the previous chapter, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane Gavi Hastini. Shuni Cheva Swapakicha Panditaha Samadarshina. Pandita means a learned person. Samadarshina means sees everyone equally. Whether it is a Brahmana, a cow, a dog eater, doesn't matter who, sees everyone equally. So all these qualities mentioned here can help one to go above the modes of material nature. Let's see 26. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Jay, you want to read the purport?
Yeah. This verse is a reply to Arjuna's third question. What is the means of attaining to the transcendental position? As explained before, the material world is acting under the spell of the modes of material nature. One should not be disturbed by the activities of the modes of nature. Instead of putting his consciousness into such activities, he may transfer his consciousness to Krishna activities. Krishna activities are known as Bhakti Yoga, always acting for Krishna. This includes not only Krishna but his different plenary expansions such as Rama and Narayana. He has innumerable expansions. One who is engaged in the service of any of the forms of Krishna or his plenary expansions is considered to be transcendentally situated. One should also note that all the forms of Krishna are fully transcendental, blissful, full of knowledge, and eternal. Such personalities of Godhead are omnipotent and omniscient, and they possess all transcendental qualities. So, if one engages himself in the service of Krishna or his plenary expansions with unfailing determination, although these modes of material nature are very difficult to overcome, one can overcome them easily. This has already been explained in the seventh chapter. One who surrenders unto Krishna at once surmounts the influence of the modes of material nature. To be in Krishna consciousness or in devotional service means to acquire equality with Krishna. The Lord says that his nature is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge, and the living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme, as gold particles are part of a gold mine. Thus, the living entity in his spiritual position is as good as Krishna in quality. The difference of the individuality continues, otherwise there would be no question of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga means that Lord is there, the devotee is there, and the activity of exchange of love between the Lord and the devotee is there. Therefore, the individuality of two persons is present in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the individual person. Otherwise, there would be no meaning to Bhakti Yoga. If one is not situated in the same transcendental position with the Lord, one cannot serve the Supreme Lord. To be a personal assistant to a king, one must acquire the qualifications. Thus, the qualification is to become Brahman or, or freed from all material contamination. It is said in the Vedic literature, Brahmava San Brahmyapati. One can attain the supreme Brahman by becoming Brahman. This means that one must qualitatively become one with Brahman. By attainment of Brahman, one does not lose his eternal Brahman identity as an individual soul.
Yes. So, very, very important verse. Here he says, one who engages in full devotional service, full, not percentage, not little. Just like when we are working on a project for a boss, he wants 100%, right? He doesn't want 5, 10, 15, 20%. He wants full. So here also, full devotional service, and more importantly, unfailing in all circumstances, which means no excuse can be good enough to not do devotional service. He's saying unfailing. Just like the boss doesn't want us to fail, he wants us to do, a very thorough job and complete it. So he's saying if one is engaged in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once, he says, at once, immediately transcends the modes of material nature. So this is very, very important that we should not get disturbed. We have to be conscious of Krishna all the time. When we do that, then we get into that practice. Krishna says, Yad karoshi, yad ashnashi, yad juhoshi. He says, whatever you do, whatever charity you give, whatever austerities you perform, whatever you give away, everything he says you do it as an offering unto me. So when we get into that mode of, working for Krishna, serving him, performing in that consciousness, then what will happen? Then there will be no more reactions, then there'll be no more entanglements, right? And then we'll become free. So this is what is called Bhakti Yoga or Krishna consciousness. That is what Krishna is talking about. So the important ingredient in this whole verse is unfailing, right? Supposing I want to start a business, I have to put in my full 100% in that. I have to also be conscious of what I'm supposed to do, what I'm not supposed to do. And also, there has to be determination. Otherwise, my business is going to fail. It's not going to work at all. So, of course, it's not easy to transcend the modes, but here Krishna is giving us, uh, knowledge. He's giving us knowledge on what we can do so we can transcend these worlds. So if we follow the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, then we will be able to do. Now, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada was saying that just like we are parts of Krishna, qualitatively, yes, Mamai Vamsha Jivaloke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, we are eternal, we are Sanatana, just like he's giving the example of gold, right? Gold and gold in gold mine, it's the same. It's just gold is a small part of the gold mine. Similarly, we are a small part of Krishna. So qualitatively, we are the same, but not quantitatively. He is the Supreme Lord. So because we are spiritual, we are blissful by nature, but because we are embodied, we are in this body, we have forgotten everything. We have forgotten we are parts of Krishna. We have forgotten we are eternal soul. We have forgotten our places in the spiritual world. So, because of contamination in this material world. So, now to remove this contamination, Krishna is giving this knowledge to us how we can engage in full devotional service. And devotional starts with chanting the holy names of the Lord. That's why in every lecture I keep insisting, please chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we'll take this last verse of this chapter, number 27. And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is a constitutional position of ultimate happiness. This is a very big purport, so I have written a summary out of it. So, we can talk about it. So here, in this chapter, we have learned about the three aspects of realizing the Supreme Lord. One is impersonal Brahman that he is talking about in this verse. Impersonal Brahman is the effulgence of Krishna's body. Then it is the Paramatma level, which is the super soul within the heart. And the highest level of understanding Krishna is as Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Brahman is the lowest stage of realization. It is the first stage of realization. And I mean, we can gradually rise from Brahman to Paramatma to Bhagwan. But Bhagavad Gita teaches us how, by following this process of Krishna consciousness, we can go straight to the highest level, which is the Bhagwan realization. Very nice example Prabhupada gives in the purport of the sons of Lord Brahma. There were four Kumaras, right? So they were impersonalists. They were only on that Brahman realization where, they did not believe in the form of God. They were just thinking about impersonalism, which is just the Brahman realization. So Prabhupada says that if we just stay in that Brahman realization, there's a chance of falling down, right? Even from that position. So it's very important that we consistently, regularly perform devotional service so we can gradually start going up to the Bhagwan realization. And at that level is where one becomes very blissful. Like the Gyanis, right? The yogis, they are only interested in meditating on the super soul in the heart. So they just reach to that level only, and there is a chance of falling down. But if we follow this process of Bhagavad Gita, then we will come to that transcendental position where we will enjoy eternal happiness. Like Krishna said, the first verse I read, that you will enjoy nectar even in this life. So, but one thing to important to remember is, if we want to if our consciousness is that I want to enjoy this material world, then we are in big trouble, right? If we think I am the Lord of all I survey, I am the controller, I am the head of the family, or I am, that position, I am the CEO. If we have that in our mind, then the chances of falling down is there, because we are not enjoyers, we are not controllers. Many times I give this example that even the blinking of the eye is not under our control, right? How much hard we may try, it will blink when it has to blink, right? Even sometimes the body fails, like doesn't want to do what we want to do. Like sometimes you say, oh, my leg is sleeping, right? That's beyond our control. So even this body is beyond our control. So it's important to understand our position is to be the eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. So if we do not give up this propensity of lording it over ourselves and others, then we will remain in these three modes of material nature. And this whole process of transcending the modes starts only with chanting the holy name of the Lord. Now, I'm going to read, kind of not read, but give you a summary of what we have learned so far, right? In this whole chapter, Modes of Material Nature. So we can see that in the beginning, Krishna says that I am going to give you more knowledge now, more than I have given you already. And then he talks about the three levels of realization. And then he gives a summary of what can we, how can we understand in which mode we are operating. So for instance, someone who is in the mode of goodness is mostly interested in taking on knowledge, is basically free of sins, and also in the mode of goodness also is conditioned by the sense of happiness. Okay, I did this, so I am happy now, right? That is there. But the one who is in the mode of passion has unlimited desires. See, if you remember, I told you to read from verse 6 through 18, right? So this is a summary of that. So Krishna says that those who are in the mode of passion, they have unlimited desires, and they are basically interested in fruitive activity, which means I will do this and this is the fruit I will get, and I'm going to enjoy that fruit. And in the mode of ignorance, a person is basically mad, lazy, sleepy, wants to sleep, and in intoxication. But now, how do we know about a person who has transcended these three modes? And Krishna explains that those who are in the mode of pure goodness, they are like, they also like to take on knowledge, they are also free from sins, but they also have gotten purified. They are purified. no, there's no more contamination. They are purified because they are chanting, they are hearing, they are associating with devotees, they are reading, they understand they are not this body, they understand their constitutional position, that they are a servant, they are not the master, and they are following the rules of spirituality. So these are the symptoms of those who are in the mode of pure goodness. And Krishna finally explains how to transcend these modes of material nature. He says there has to be full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, fully Krishna conscious, work for Krishna with determination, and be above this bodily concept of life. Come to that level where one can understand I am not this body. So that is how one can transcend the modes of material nature. So this is how this chapter ends, a heavy chapter. If anyone has any questions.
Um, so when you were telling there are certain regulations that we have to put in, you said